All good, all good. All right. Hey, how you doing, everybody? My name is TakuDavid, and you are tuned into a brand new episode of the Young Money Show on ZFM Stereo, where I'm talking to exciting people who are making a difference in our communities one day at a time through their efforts. Today, I'm joined by JW Oliver, a man who needs no introduction across the rest of the world. In Zimbabwe, he might be a bit new to you, but I'll let him explain what he does. Slightly different from our usual shows because J-Dub isn't the youngest man in the room, but definitely young at heart. I'll let you decide for yourselves. So JW, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, it's great to be here, Taku. It's always a lot of fun, and I think we're the same age. I'm almost positive. I'm almost 30 or something like that. So no, I enjoy being with young people. It makes me feel younger and more invigorated. So thanks for asking me to be here, and it's a great honor to jump on here with you.
Thank you, thank you. Just for the audience who doesn't know who JW Oliver is, or who's the amazing brand behind you is Zimworks, please maybe just give us a bit of insight into who you are and what work you do with Zimworks in Zimbabwe.
Well, I always say first, most important, I love Jesus. I consider myself a strong Christian believer and love how God has led my path and affected my life as I move forward. But got amazing wife of almost 30 years and two kids about your age. So I'm familiar. I shouldn't say kids, right? Adult children. And yeah, so I've been in a number of different businesses. I'm still actively involved in a few different organizations, but the one that's most passionate about is Zimworks. I'm the managing partner with Zimworks. We started in 2017 or 16 officially. 17 is when we really got kind of rolling, and now we've grown to somewhat of an impactful organization. I think we've got a lot happening, and we kind of operate in a different perspective. But our goal, Taku, is really our mission statement is called making a commitment to excellence while making a global impact for the kingdom. And so we really live by those core values, and our main brunt of our company is providing resources to U.S., Canadian, Australian-based, UK-based businesses, where we provide them with what we know is exceptional resources, that being the human capital resource that they're in Zimbabwe, to allow them to work in other areas outside of Zimbabwe and make an impact for other companies, and also make an impact for themselves as well.
That's very exciting. And for me, sitting here as a Zimbabwean, I think what we would like to know is, how does a man from Bonnie Homes, USA, find himself working in Zimbabwe? I think what is particularly unique about the Zimbabwean human capital that you thought it would be better to invest in this project in Zimbabwe rather than in India, where that's typically done?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I met my partner at a Christian conference in Curacao back in 2015, and look, I'd never been to Africa at that point. And when we got together later with our families, and he was like, we have this amazing people in Zimbabwe. They just need jobs. They're ready to go to work. They're hungry. I was like, well, okay, this is something I can kind of tinker with, right? You didn't think it's going to turn into anything major, but you thought, yeah, let's see if we can do that. And so once we realized the value that they offered, I actually used some in my I have a medical imaging company. Started using a few people, and I said, wow, this really works. They're bright, they're sharp, they're passionate, they're dedicated, they really want to work, they want to make a difference. And so we really grew from there. Two people in my office, a company called Global Imaging, and that company began to take advantage of those resources, and we started to grow. So that was why we're in Zimbabwe and not somewhere else. We weren't saying, hey, let's get into the BPO outsourcing remote services business and let's pick a country. It was a God-driven initiative to get together and then create this amazing group of people that we now have. But there's a huge advantage, right? I mean, we're and look, Zimbabwe is growing towards an economy that kind of can cater to that BPO outsourcing. We don't even like the word BPO because that's really not what we are. We consider ourselves a remote virtual outsourcing company. We call it insourcing because we believe they become part of your team. And we don't look at our team members as some kind of a remote offshore resource. We tell our clients that these team members become part of your organization, and they have to become part of your culture, part of your team, get really ingrained into your organization, so that you can build that win-win-win, we call it, philosophy. But the reasoning is amazing why they're growing. It's pretty evident. I mean, sitting here speaking to you, you have a beautiful little English accent that we call the Queen's English. Some people say we should change that to the King's now, but I'm going to stick with Queen's English. And so you got this amazing accent, you've got amazing speaking, the great command of the English language. But you do the research. 54 countries in Africa, and Zimbabwe ranks in the top 1 or 2 with university education, literacy rates, and so those are some of the whether you whatever opinions you have about the previous government, the one thing they did was they instilled education, which in a long cycle is starting to have a major effect. So you have educated, passionate, committed individuals who want to work and make a difference.
One of the things that Zimbabwe suffers from is really the international image or the international opinion of Zimbabwe. And usually it's from people who haven't traveled here or who aren't as traveled. So have you taken into consideration the effect that your work with ZimWorks, having Zimbabwean talent and Zimbabwean skills actually participate in a US economy? Have you taken into account what your work with ZimWorks is doing with regards to the perception of Zimbabwean skills and Zimbabwean talent internationally?
Yeah, I never thought that was, never did I originally imagine that was going to be one of the effects of the company. But I was actually at an event, well, you were there, actually an event at the AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce, Zimbabwe. And somebody introduced me to another person, said, oh yeah, he's the largest US based employer in Zimbabwe. And I kind of, it kind of shocked me because I hadn't heard that before. And I don't really go by a lot of numbers. I just think you stay in your lane and do what you can. But you're right. There is this perception, I call it ignorance, really, that people have about other countries. Most people that have an opinion about, whether it's Mexico, from our perspective, whether it's Mexico, Central America, Africa, there's this perception that there's low education, that there's no facilities, that, there's not an opportunity, et cetera. And that's just wrong. And then, of course, you add the complexity with Zimbabwe's past history and the Zadera Act and some of the sanctions. But those, you didn't get here. Zimbabwe didn't get here in a year, right? It was a slow evolution of time from independence, and it's not going to get out of there quick either. And that's true in any country. So you're right. There is a slow movement to change the image, change the culture, change the perception of what's going on in Zimbabwe. And I'll also say this, I think people look, I talked to a lot of people from Zimbabwe here in the US and then there. People want to live back in Zim, right? They really want to go back, but they need jobs, right? You got to have economic opportunity. You got to have jobs. There's got to be infrastructure. So the nice thing about it is there is a sense of nationalism within the people of Zimbabwe, and I think there is a great desire to move back and to make Zimbabwe what it once was, and that's great again. And I think it's moving in that direction. To be quite honest with you, it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Thank you. That just actually leads to my next question, which is in line with your view on the future of your business, as well as in Zimbabwe, what we've really suffered from over the past 20 years is an amazing brain drain. When it comes to teachers, doctors, nurses, all of our best talent is up and leaving the country. Now, yeah. with ZimWorks, our best talent is still in the country, but the services are employed in another geographical location. How can we get to a point whereby Zimbabwean skills, Zimbabwean talent is actually being used to improve the livelihoods and the economy and the gross domestic output of the country locally? How do we get there?
Yeah, look, again, I think that's a slow moving process, but it's evident by me that the creation of the jobs that we've made, the small impact we've made there is starting to give people some hope. I always say young people, and look, this is not Zim, this is in the US, this is in every country I've ever been to, spent some time in Central America. And and look, young people like yourself and younger, what do they want? They would like stable internet. They would like to go to a Starbucks or a nice coffee house and get a nice cup of coffee. They would like consistent power. So they're not really asking for, hey, bring me all this high end stuff. They're just asking for some consistency, right? And just some things that kind of keep them in contact, some things that they really desire. So it's going to take a massive amount of government effort, but it's also going to take a mindset change.
Mm.
Um, if we get stuck into the mode of, because look, we can do that here. I'm not particularly overwhelmed by our current government administration, but I always say, look, he's our president and he's Mr. President, and so regardless of what side of the fence you come on, I think there has to be this sense of nationalism where you pull your communities, you pull your government, you pull your people together, and they get behind a common cause. Because you can use excuses all you want, right? You can continue to say, "Well, I can't do anything." There's government corruption, and there's this, and there's that, and but at some point you got to do something, right? You got to quit just talking and making excuses. I always say everybody's got an excuse. Most of them don't have a good one, and at some point you just need to, we only control ourselves, right? We only have the ability to change our own actions, and so the country needs to come together and really become behind a common cause. Because you're right, this happens in countries all over the world. I've spent a lot of time in Haiti, and that country was really gutted by the fact that all of their educated citizens, all of the people of the community, they left. Right, the doctors, the lawyers, the people with a lot of resources, they just left. But I think you're seeing that's not changing there, unfortunate. But in Zim, it is changing, and I think people are seeing what's happening. Look at the build. Look at the home building there.
Yeah.
Uh, Crazy the number of new homes and people investing in new homes. I think that's a very, you don't see that in places that are continuing to spiral downhill. You see people who are saying, well, where do I put my money? We got to, right, you got an unstable dollar valuation or currency. So, well, where do I put it? I put it in property. Property, real estate's always a good place to have it. So I think you're seeing that, which to me is the cornerstone or the bedrock to starting to build the community back, is going to be the trust, the confidence, building up the infrastructure, which that's got to be evident, right? There's nobody loves the potholes we have to steer around in most of Harare, right? But
Yeah.
that's got to improve, and I think once that starts to improve, I think it's on the way. And I believe it's on the way. I believe that there's been significant change in the last 5 years, and I think you'll continue to see that as well.
That's positive to hear, coming from a foreign investor in the local market. And just to expand on what you're already saying, I understand you feel that we are doing well and there are some positives. What else can we do to make Zimbabwe a more attractive investment destination for foreign investment and people like yourselves?
Yeah, I think there is a lot going on. I'll mention the American Chamber of Commerce, and if you're a young business owner or you're a business owner or a large business owner, you need to become a part of that. Um, I was a group of business owners that helped found that with the help of Richard Griffith, and so that group has really come together. It's very strong. It's got a lot of um, really good leaders and people who represent different segments from banking to natural resources, and I think that is the first step, because um, it does give a cohesive group of people that are really tooting their horn about, you need to come here with foreign investment, and that's probably number one, because I've already spoken to a number of companies that are looking to go to Zim to open up, and they've actually called and said, "Hey, tell me how you navigate. Tell me what your opinion is. Tell me what this is." So that's probably number one. Is you need look. What did Ronald Reagan, who was one of my favorite presidents, said? people are always looking to the government for solutions, but they're the problem. And so it doesn't change in any country. We have to quit blaming things. We have to quit saying, well, because of this. That's the reason people don't succeed in life, is they're always blaming their circumstances. So at some point you have to take command of your own actions and decide you're going to do something. You're going to open a business. You're going to get started. I hear it all the time. Whoo, I bet you have a really hard time doing business in Zimbabwe. I'm like, not really. I try to work with people. I try to make things right. We stay out of the corruption. We try to operate in a noble fashion, and we try to give people good. We don't make everybody happy. We got 800 employees. I'm sure you could go out there and find many that would not have good things to say, but that's okay. We're not trying to please everybody. We're trying to move an organization forward. So to answer your question, I'm sorry to kind of beat around that, but I really believe it starts with organizations like the American Chamber of Commerce in Zimbabwe, business owners, small business owners, et cetera, getting involved with that. You've been to some of those events. That's where we've met, and you could probably speak the same. Those are great networking events, and that's starting to attract people who want to come for manufacturing, not just it can't be centered around, hey, there's another diamond mine operator, another natural resource, right? It's starting to center around, hey, how do I bring oil and gas industry to here, or gas industry to here? How do I improve the tourism, as an example? Man, I've been to Zimbabwe 20 plus times. I still have visited so few places, right? I mean, I think I was telling you or somebody, I was like, I haven't been to Nyanga and up to the Eastern Highlands. I'm like, oh, everybody's like, oh, you can't believe you haven't been there. And so there's so much that Zimbabwe has to offer if you just looked at the tourism sector, right?
Yeah.
Just take that. I mean, Vic Falls is growing. Everybody knows where Victoria Falls is, right? It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, and people want to go there. But there's so much more, right? Even Harare is a very beautiful city. There's lots to see there. And then you can go to the north. You can go to the east. There's just a lot to do. So I think it's going to center around not just one thing, Taku. I think it's going to center around the tourism industry, the improvement of the natural resources, and all sorts of other ancillary businesses, nice coffee shops, nice restaurants. All of that helps to grow the economy in a positive and keeps people there too.
Yeah, and I think, we really need innovative people like yourself. You've been able to come through with, an innovative solution yourself and your partner, Ken Shop. You've been able to come with an innovative solution to create jobs in Zimbabwe, well-paying jobs in Zimbabwe. I understand it's probably not as much as paid in the US, but in Zimbabwe, it's a very, very healthy, healthy paying salary. So when it comes to innovation, there's something that I've always sort of thought when it comes to the form of education we have here and the form of education that you have in the US, whereby I feel that our traditional form of education teaches you what to think and makes you a very, very good employee, a brilliant employee. Whereas the forms of education in the US seem to teach you how to think, which, fosters an environment that facilitates for innovation. What do we do here locally in Zimbabwe to create an innovative space? And more importantly, to reward innovation? Because I feel that innovation in Zimbabwe is not aptly rewarded. Hence, I am not incentivized to go and invent the next helicopter because I'm going to spend 10 years of my life languishing in poverty and not really get anything to pay for my work.
Look, I would probably disagree and say there's not much difference in the education structure in the US versus really anywhere. Well, not anywhere, but in Zim. And, there's this traditional 4 or 5 year degree. You get a focus on computer science or business administration or whatever. And we do the same. There's an old saying here that if you those who can't do teach, which is a kind of saying, well, those that can't be successful in business, they go be a professor at a university, and there may be some truth to that, but I don't think that's not what has made America what it is today. It's the innovation comes from one simple aspect, that's capitalism. it's limited government intervention. That's why we went through the, throwing tea into the Boston Harbor, and we were trying to say, look, we don't want to be run by the government. We want to be an independent organization. Now we've slowly evolved into more government controls, and I think that goes the wrong direction. So it's the same with Zimbabwe. You need to foster capitalism, and that's encouraging people to start businesses. In the U.S., I can literally start a company in one day, and I mean one day I can call it 2 days. I could have my charter for my organization. I could walk into the bank, open a bank account, and I'm in business. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to be successful, but I'm in business, and so there's limited restraint to be able to, for the path to become an entrepreneur, to open up a business, and so you need those types of things, and so any country needs to evolve to where there is that limited amount. I'll speak to the education piece. And I'm seeing this trend in places like Central America. We have an office in Costa Rica for our Spanish speaking, a smaller office, but we're starting to see there's some people in those areas that are doing something quite unique. They're offering certificate programs. So it's somewhere between a 6-month and a 12-month program where they're really focused on the skill set that's going to get them a job, right? Whether it's software development, whether it's learning AI, whether it's some kind of a unique, let's say, a big company, Amazon or somebody says, look, we need developers in this specific skill, or AWS or something needs developers in this specific skill set. They teach this certificate program where they become well versed into that, and I think those are things that quickly change the country. Look, right now you have, I mean, one of the things we pride ourselves on, I think we've got like 95% of our team members have university education, university degrees, right? But that doesn't give you a job. It may give you I always say it gives you the ability to learn, or the ability to learn. But we need to start focusing on specific skill sets that can cater to certain markets, because there are certain markets that are growing faster than others. And I know we talked a little bit about AI. AI is not a solution. AI to me is a tool which companies can use. I've written a few articles and talked to people in our industry saying, I think our business is going to grow because of AI, because AI is not 100% foolproof method, right? It just isn't in most industries, especially in some of the things we do in the medical space. It's a tool which has you become more efficient, but it still needs supported and managed and monitored by human capital. And so I think there's an opportunity to train people in certain areas where they can grow in that. So combination of capitalism, free restraint from to grow and to get into business. I think that the entry into the business needs to be quicker, and then I think training people and developing them into models where they're going to be successful, whether that's software development, AI technology. You got ChatGPT down. What can you direct people to be able to? And look, the world's changing. I read an article. We actually have Starlink at a location in Colorado here, and the satellite internet, and that Elon Musk has developed. It's fantastic, right? I mean, literally, you plug it in, and you've got fast internet, and so that's going to change quickly, right? I mean, there may be some kickback from some people in lots of countries, probably the U.S. too. They don't want that because we want to. It disrupts their business. Yeah. But that's changing, right? If you're there at your house and you need full-time internet, you plug that in, pay a monthly fee, and solar power, it'll charge up as well. So there's lots of things that are going to make the entry into capitalism. And look, we realize too, I want to be clear too, a lot of what we do is also training people for their next job, right? We realize we are we've got some high-end jobs as well. We've got some people, chartered accountants working for big companies. So there's a range. I don't want to think we're all just this. We're not a low-end data entry, that type of job. We are actually do a lot with human interaction. We call it client-facing because of the language. but we also realize we're helping prepare people for their next role, and so we want to invest in people. We encourage it. We foster people. Hey, you got a business? Heck, we might invest in it. We might help you get into it, because we want people to see the big picture. I don't know. Have you met Peter at Be
No, I haven't
Uncommon? I
met
think you
either.
know.
No.
Okay, he's got an interesting business. They go to a lot of the rural areas, and I can't say that word right. And they've got a company called Be Uncommon, and he takes people who have the proclivity, have the ability to learn technology, software development, et cetera. And he's got these technology hubs. I think he's got 8 of them, or I think 7 of them in Harare, and one they just opened in Big Falls, where they're teaching people to do this specific job, whether it's app development, software development, et cetera. So I think it's organizations like that that are teaching young people a skill set, and that's what's really gonna make a difference.
Wow. While I still have you, we're quickly running out of time, unfortunately. I know you could talk for hours, JW. um,
Sorry about that. I talk too
it's
much.
that southern flavor, that southern flair, right? Well, I still have you. You know, we are in what they like to call the third world. I don't know what that's ever meant, to be honest. And what do you think can be applied from this part of the world? And I think you also have business in Costa Rica that can be applied in the so-called first world.
Yeah, I don't, and look, I don't know how, I don't know. I never hear anybody say we're a second world country, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what those rankings are. I don't know how they, and I don't even like the word third world. I hear it said to me a lot. I've used it too. Don't get me wrong. Um, I've been to a couple of places that I think are fourth world, and so I'm like, okay, what is there another level? Because I don't know what the different levels are.
Yeah.
Um, I I I do think it is a slow evolution. Take Zambia as an example, right? I mean, take Rwanda. I was in Rwanda in January, and I was like, whoa, 25 years ago you were in the middle of genocide, and now you're maybe one of the most prosperous, developing, kind of edge of technology driven countries. So 25 years, right? I mean,
Hmm.
so it's changed. Um, I think to develop that, you really need, well, 2 things. You need good government support, and I think the government there is changing and developing and doing great things, and hopefully they'll continue to do those things. And then I think secondly, and most importantly, it's your people. Your people have to make a decision. Number one, I'm going to stay. Number two, I'm going to endure. Number three, I'm going to invest and do some things in the country. So it's guys like you. Um, it's going to be the 30-year-olds and below that really make the difference. Honestly, they're the ones that they're going to have to commit. Is it going to be easy? No, but I'll tell you this: the reward will be great for those that put in the time and the effort to make a difference. It's going to be a struggle. You're right. But those that'll put in that effort to make a difference, and then you'll come out of third world, if you want to call it, second world, whatever it is, and be that first tier country like Zimbabwe was, right? And back to its glory and back to its greatness. So honestly, I got to reiterate, I think it's on the right path. Are there going to be problems? Yeah, heck, we have problems here every day. You just open the newspaper, read, listen. We've got our own set of problems, but I think it is on the right path. You have a lot of people who are investing in their own country. Ken Sharp, my partner, he's investing in the country, and you have lots of others who are saying, "Hey, let's come together and let's make it work." So if I was a business owner around the world and I was looking for a place to say, hey, I want to not only make a difference, but I want to leverage the human capital, and I would like to be an entrepreneur and open a business, it would be Zimbabwe, because there's opportunity. You don't go to these first tier countries and make an impact as easy, because there's already a lot of people doing what you're
Yeah.
doing, right?
Yeah.
So take a chance, go to some places where you feel like you can make an impact, and it may or may not be financially rewarding, but it'll definitely be rewarding.
JW, you're a human, right? So I'd like to think. The robots haven't completely taken over. But what really keeps you going? You know, I think ultimately when someone is working and is achieving as much success as you are, you know, there has to be something that motivates you more than money. And what would you say keeps you going, gets you into the office early in the morning, gets you on a Zoom call to Zimbabwe early in the morning as you're doing now?
You know, it's funny. I'll address that, and then I'll come back around to what gets me going. If there's one thing I could ever instill upon my children and young people, it's to get up and get started. You know, I'm never. I get up between 4:30 and 5 o'clock every morning. I've done that for years now. It gives me time to prepare myself. It gives me time to get into the scripture, get in the word, get my prayer time in, and that just sets the tone for the rest of the day, right? Because as you can imagine, when I get up at 4:30 or 5, Zimbabwe is already in full gear, right? I've got WhatsApp messages and emails and whatnot, but I'm not fully going, so I take that time and get my head prepared and get myself into the right frame of mind. Um, I've never been driven by money. I'll make that clear. I mean, I have never been driven. Do I want to have money? Sure, that's human nature, right? Everybody wants nice things and be able to travel and do those things. But probably the biggest problem I see is most young people want that to happen like today, right? Hey, I'm 28 years old. Man, I want to be worth $1 million next year. And it's like, that's probably not going to happen, right? And it didn't happen with me. But you become my passion is people. It's in my bio. I say it a lot. I just love to see people smile. You know, I'm a little bit of a jokester. I use a lot of sarcasm, but I like to have a lot of fun and like to encourage people. So when I walk away from a meeting with you, or I walk away meeting somebody new in wherever I'm at, you know, I just hope they smile and say, "Hey, that's a nice guy," or "Boy, that was an encouraging." You know, I love Ephesians 4:29. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only that which builds others up. And I think that's what we need to do as people. You, me, everybody. We need to uh, breathe life and positive affirmation into people around us that lifts them up. Because I can say to you, you know, well, I can't see you right now, but if I said, "Hey, Taku, those are nice shoes you have on," or "Man, you look really nice today," or "Hey," I see a woman and say, "Boy, I really like the way your hair looks," and you truly mean it. It's just those little things that make a difference. But my passion, honestly, to answer your question in too long of an answer, but my passion truly is just people, and seeing people improve a little bit by little bit, see them put a smile on their face, and just encourage them to be the very best they could be. And read. I tell people, read. Turn your phones off. Turn your Twitter off. Turn your social media off. Get a book. I could show you my desk. I'm going to try to instill upon things. I keep books on my desk. You know, Divine Interaction. There's Good to
Good
Great.
to
There's
Great is
Six
amazing.
Types of Working Geniuses. Yeah. Don't think that people just become great leaders because they were born. People become great leaders because they spend time in becoming great leaders. You know.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a difference, turn off your phones, get a book, read, encourage somebody, go to AmCham meetings and figure out what's going on, man. If you're a young Zimbabwean, get involved in those types of groups, civic organizations that are making a difference. And then you'll find your passion. I mean, you know, look, I could talk with you for 3 hours about stuff like this because I'm passionate about it. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to be on a show. I got plenty of things to do today, but I'm passionate about seeing people improve, make a difference, come to know Jesus, and most importantly, just walk away saying, "Man, I can do this. I can do this." So I'm passionate about people, the money, all that. It'll follow. Typically, not always guaranteed, but if you're chasing money, you'll probably fail. So I think that's the last thing you want to chase. Chase success. Try to make a difference, and I think that'll make the difference in your life too.
Wow, JW Oliver, thank you so much for coming on the program today. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man, very important man, and you giving us the time as the youth of Zimbabwe to share your insights with us is really, really honorable, and we can truly see your love for people there. JW, before you go out, where can we reach out to you? You know, if someone wants to follow your content, listen to your words of wisdom, see what you're up to, where can we find you?
You can, if you want company information, Zimworks, ZIMWORX.com. My personal is just jwoliver.com. You can go to my website. You can connect with me on LinkedIn from there if you want to. I get a lot of messages from young people in Zim. I'm happy to connect. I get asked for a lot of things. Don't ask me for money. I probably won't give you money if I don't know you, but I get a lot of that. I'm happy to connect and get involved. We've got a new group that we're starting up. It's Zimbabweans abroad, and we're trying to tap into those business leaders that are abroad. So we've got a LinkedIn group that we're starting to promote there. So yeah, go to jwoliver.com. I've got some blogs on there, short ones. They're quick, easy to read. They read them in about 2 minutes most of the time. I had one yesterday. They're very easy. So love to connect with people. Love to know more about. And look, if you're young and you want to get started, you can go to zimworks.com. Go to zimbojobs.com is our local Zimbo, ZIMBO jobs.com. Apply. We'd love to get your CV on file and see if we can help you find a place as well.
Thank you so much, JW. I'm TakuDavid, and this is the Young Money Show, where we are changing the narrative and shifting the perspective of what you think about Africa and what we believe in about ourselves, shaping the future we want to live in one day at a time. Thank you so much. I'm out. Thanks a lot, JW. Really appreciate that, my man.